the reception hall was thick with perfume and tension. The choir's soft harmonies floated like smoke above the crowd, but Andrew barely heard them. His eyes refused to leave Stefania Besa, the woman who now stood crowned in lace and light at the side of his oldest friend. He remembered the first time he'd heard her name. It wasn't in the joyful tones of a bride-to-be, but in the whispered warnings of men who claimed they had once held her close, only to be cut by her sharp edges. Stefania was known in the city, Matero taverns, woodlands parties, whispered at Chicancata weddings. She wasn't reckless, no. Reckless women left trails of shame. Stefania left trails of silence, the kind that grew louder the more one tried to ignore it. Andrew's chest tightened as he stepped closer to Godfrey, his voice urgent, but controlled. Listen to me, my brother. Do you know who she's been with? A life she's lived. This woman, she doesn't bend, she doesn't break. She consumes. I've heard men call her blessed. Others call her cursed. You can't just step into a fire and expect to come out whole. Godfrey's jaw flexed, his eyes narrowing, though his lips remained calm. He glanced at Stefania, who was staring ahead as though she hadn't heard a word. Yet Andrew knew she had. The subtle curve of her smile was all the proof he needed. She is my choice, Godfrey said at last, his voice steady but carrying a strange fire. And I won't turn back. Not now. Not here. Andrew's hand dropped from his friend's shoulder. A chill passed through him. It wasn't that Godfrey didn't understand. It was that he didn't want to understand. He had already chosen the fire. Stefania's POV. From beneath her veil, Stefania Besa studied the two men, the loyal friend and the stubborn groom. She had heard Andrew's words, every syllable heavy with fear and warning. He thought he knew her, thought he carried some secret history that gave him power over her. She almost laughed. Men like Andrew always thought they knew. They heard fragments of stories, saw shadows of her past, and pieced them together like broken glass. Yes, she had lived. Yes, she had fought. She had stood in places where women were expected to kneel, and she had taken what life tried to deny her, and for that, the city whispered. But whispers never broke her. Her eyes slid to Godfrey, his broad frame rooted like a tree against the storm of judgment. He wasn't perfect. She could already see the cracks of pride in his confidence, the weight of expectation on his shoulders. But he was bold. Bold enough to take her hand in front of this hall. Bold enough to silence the wagging tongues with the sound of his vows. Inwardly, she smiled. Let Andrew talk. Let him warn. Let him tremble. She was no fragile bride. She was a woman who had survived enough storms to know that fire did not always destroy. It purified. Still, a faint pang ran through her chest. Godfrey had no idea how deep her shadows ran, how sharp her scars cut. He looked at her and saw beauty wrapped in silk. What would he see when the silk fell away, when the shadows walked into their home alongside her? Would he still stand tall, or would he crumble like the others? Stefania straightened her back. Whatever the answer, it didn't matter. She would not shrink. She would not apologize. She was the bride, and she had come to be seen. Narrator's thread. The choir swelled again, breaking the tension. Guests rose, clapping as the priest motioned for silence. Godfrey and Stefania stepped forward together, their hands brushing, their bodies aligned, their faces unreadable. Andrew stood behind them, his chest heavy with dread. He had fought to warn his friend, but Godfrey had chosen his path. The vows would be spoken, the rings exchanged, the smiles photographed. But Andrew knew marriage was not built in ceremonies. It was built in shadows, and Stefania Besa's shadows were darker than Godfrey could imagine. And yet, as the priest cleared his throat and opened his book, Andrew saw something else. Something that unsettled him even more than his fear. Stefania's eyes flickered sideways, just for a second, catching his gaze. And in them, Andrew thought he saw not malice, not deception, but something far more dangerous. A woman who knew exactly who she was, and dared the world to break her. He swallowed hard, realizing that this was no ordinary wedding. This was the beginning of a war disguised in lace, to be continued